Okay, got a pipe wrench on that side, got a hydraulic jack on this side. We're gonna see what happens here if we apply some pressures. Probably slipping the pipe wrench on the other side. Well, got some tension on her. That might crack it loose, but hope I'm not bending the cylinder. That could be the case. I think I am bending the cylinder. Oh no, it didn't bend nothing. I suspect these are probably pretty tight. Something slipped. I thought something moved there, but I don't know, maybe not. That's a slow process. Something's either given or we did break it loose. How about that? All right, we got her. How about that? Now, hopefully I got the right one. So this one is a little bit longer. So I'm gonna measure it, put a mark on the threads, and then I can just thread it up. It'll all be close enough for now. Okay. That's approximately the same. I measured from here to the top of that nut, so should be about the same, close enough, I think. So the hydraulic jack and the 18-inch crescent work pretty well to take it loose. Pipe wrench holding the other side. Of course, I'm going to turn the pipe wrench around at this point so that we can tighten it. I'm not gonna get super carried away with tightening this. I don't think it's gotta be super duper tight. That was about 165 foot-pounds. Of course, you know I weigh more than that, right? 180, about 185, I think. A little more than I ought to be. Anyway, this is, I need to knock the burrs off where the weld splatter got it. Then I'll need to clean the drive shaft, put it back in the axle. And we'll be ready to put the washers on for this. Slide the spindle in, or the knuckle, steering knuckle. And I call it a spindle, but the book calls it a steering knuckle. And then we'll grease everything up, put it together, and we'll hope it works. Alright. Need to pull that a little bit. I don't like these grooves in this axle, but I can't fix it today. I'll have that on my list. I don't know if they make a repair sleeve for those. They might. Gotta match up the splines. Set her right in there. That part's done. Get the new seal in here. I'm gonna move it up too. What I'm basically going to try to do is set this up here. Try not to cut the seal. Set that in place. My UPS man's here. Wear pattern on this one. Unless I'm looking at this wrong. Let's just see if it's possible. That one could go on the bottom, maybe it. So the book showed it coming apart, so I don't know. Okay, let's just see what happens. Okay, maybe it does go that way. I guess I'm an idiot. Just don't seem like it'd work right, but there is a wear on this part here a little bit, so I mean some wear on it. Yeah, I guess that's right. Fits right in there. Okay. So that's how they go. One on top, one on the bottom. Not gonna question it anymore. Goodness. Spend all that time looking at this stuff and confused. We'll see if we got some slack in it when we put it back together. Shouldn't have. And we're down a bolt. I'm sure it's around here somewhere. There it is. Oh goodness. Awesome tools left and right. Uh-oh. What happened? There ain't no way that's gonna go that way, is there? Maybe there is. I don't know. Don't believe it or not. I'll be darned. It worked. It did go in there. Well, surprised me. Oh, we got too much out of that one. Alright. Well, I'm gonna say that's gonna work. It's gonna have to. WD-40 is a pretty good solvent. You don't want to spin them too fast because that retainer can break and your balls just go everywhere. Okay, so these bushings in here, you're supposed to push them all back down, except for two. I might go do that on the press. If we got enough. Easier than hammering. Let's try two at a time. Oh yeah. Not too far. Leave them two up. That's the wrong size. There's that socket. I gotta take these bolts out. Those were the pusher bolts, so only goes one way. There's no hole in the top. So. Pretty simple to get it right. First thing you should do though is put your your hub on there. bearing. And these are filled with trans hydraulic fluid. They don't use 90 weight. So they don't smell as bad as they don't smell quite as bad as some gearboxes do. Now, if I would have changed the back seal on here, which I've already changed it, so that is a step that I missed on that. Okay, so I've tapped the bearing on with the hammer. Everything's pretty much snugged up. I'm gonna be sure that surface is real clean. Then you're gonna set your ring gear in place. And I'm going to use some bolts and just kind of snug it down on there. After we get that down, we're going to drive the rest of the rings in place. They're kind of a mushroom head looking thing. Now we're going to take a bar and drive those in. There's my glasses. So we're just going to drive these other ones in. The reason you do this is it would be impossible to pull it all down with the bolts. Alright. Like I said earlier, there's no adjustment on the wheel bearing, so wherever it's set, that's pretty much it. Okay, so I do have some blue. Not sure how necessary this is, but it's what the book says to do, so that's what we'll do. I wouldn't use red on these because you don't want to have to drill these out of that axle, hub, or whatever, knuckle. And there, as I can tell, we need about 50 pounds of torque on these. Go ahead and lock these up too. I think the book said 95 Newton meters, but I think it's about 50 foot-pounds or somewhere. Alright, let's see here. 56 maybe. These are 12.8 bolts. So we'll go to 56 foot-pounds, and that puts us about, I don't know why they're saying it needs so much torque. I think it's too much. I'm just going by the basic stuff, the normal. So I'm going to do like a pattern, cross pattern kind of. Should be one more, I think. And then I'm going to double check them. That ought to be good. Now we got to put our bearing or washers. These are a thrust washer for the stub axle shaft to keep it from wearing or moving in and out too far. So I put the one that goes, it's got a little knob that goes against the bolts. I think I'm gonna put it so it's like that. And then this other one, the outer one, it locks into the splines on the axle shaft. Yeah, come on now. Oh, now, come on. Let's try this right-handed. Maybe I can do it better. Apparently, I'm not good at left-hand snap ring installing. Okay, so there's that. You want to be darn sure there's not a lot of grit or dirt in here. Now, there is an O-ring on the outer this top hat thing that we're putting on next. So you got to remember, you want to line your two bolts up, one here and one here, that you got to line up your gears. It's going to leak a little bit of oil out. So now this is the tricky part. You kind of got to rotate stuff till it catches. That actually wasn't too bad. So that should fit up tight without a lot of trouble. Shouldn't have to force it. Now we We just about got this thing whooped. So the O-ring, there's an O-ring around the outside of this. You gotta be sure if there's a gap in there, you might be pinching it. So you just want to be sure you got it seated properly, I guess, and then snug these up. These bolts here don't really do a lot but hold things in place until the wheel's on. Once the wheel's on, the lug nuts hold everything together. So at this point, I need to probably start the tractor. I need to, I gotta put the tie rod back on too. But I need to get this drain plug level. You use this to drain, you also use it to fill, but you gotta have this level and then you fill it. So the reason I started the backhoe is whenever you turn the key off, it locks the four-wheel drive engaged. I guess that's a safety feature. Of course, now we're not level because it moved a little bit. We're close enough. There is a magnet on these, so if you want to know what condition your final drives or your little planetary sets are in, you can turn this to the top, pull the plug out and take a look at your magnet. It'll either be full of junk or clean. That one's fairly clean, but I've had this apart recently, so now we got to fill it up with trans hydraulic. So they only take about a quart, I believe. Let's see here. I got about a quart. And this is the Case IH High Tran, or also New Holland Master Tran. Same stuff. You could use about any trans hydraulic fluid probably, but okay, so yep. She's spitting her out. So a little less than a quart, I think. What a mess. You want to be sure they're full though. Like I say, this one's been leaking out on me. I've been refilling it occasionally, and of course it runs back out through the seals, but hopefully now with new seals in place, that won't be an issue. Done deal, just got to put the wheel on and tighten up my tie rod end here so it don't fall off. 95 lives to see another day of work. So that's about it for changing out seals on a New Holland or a Carraro, whatever these are. They're not super hard, but they're not super easy either. It's a pretty big project. If I hadn't done the kingpins, the seals themselves they're pretty easy. But when you get into doing the kingpins, you know, you saw how I had to take that apart. Wasn't super fun, but you know, got her done. Got her did. This is what happens when you run a tie rod in too long that's loose. This one was loose on this backhoe for, I don't know, I let it go for about 3 or 4 months, and one day she just snapped off. Rather embarrassing. Another thing I wanted to show you on this is if your outer seal, your big seal, if it's leaking, you're going to have grease or oil coming out inside the wheel of the tractor. If your smaller or inner seal's leaking, you'll be able to see it come out inside this bell here. If your axle seal's leaking, you'll see it running in from this way. If it's the hub, of course, it'll run in from that way. This kind of stuff, if you overlook it for too long, like I say, these kingpins being loose, that tightened it up. I don't know that I need to replace this. It seems to be pretty tight. I could easily pull this and put a new one in it, and I may do that. But what I kind of wanted to show you is if you ever pull this hub apart, you can get to this outer seal without going any farther than right here. You can just pull this part off. If your inner seal is leaking, however, you're going to have to pull your knuckle off. Just not any other way to do it. So you got to pull your kingpins, and you got to take everything loose here as well. So anytime you tear into them, you have to take this off. You have to take your hub off. Even to get to this seal, you have to take your hub off. But to get to the inner seal, you have to pull your knuckle. If you want to get to your axle seal, you got to pull your knuckle as well. So I'd recommend, if you're doing one of those, you might as well do the other one, because if one of them's leaking, it's probably time. Seals don't last forever. They get brittle, they get old, and kind of like me, they just get weak a little bit. Anyway, appreciate you watching.